almost 300 episodes, and we have never had a guest on with this perspective. You are going to want to tune in and deep dive with us. Let's go. I'm Cristy Code Red, and you're listening to Rebel Weight Loss and Lifestyle, where we believe food holds the power to heal or poison, and we believe our society has been misled regarding proper nutrition and weight loss. You're in the right place if you're looking for some straight up truth, because I'm here to shed light on the lies and brainwashing that has taken place over the past 5 decades. Thanks so much for listening. Welcome back to another episode of Rebel Weight Loss and Lifestyle. I'm your host, Cristy Code Red, author, entrepreneur, retired professional boxer. And in this episode, we've got Jeff Later joining us. Now, we don't have a whole lot of guests on here because you guys know I am picky as all get out with my guests. I don't like guests that come on here with the wrong kind of microphone or they don't know how to look at the camera or whatever. But I am really excited that Jeff agreed. Jeff, introduce yourself, because I don't like when people try to introduce me, because then they read off of a script like this and they say, Cristy Code Red has been in the health and fitness industry since 1994. Take us back, introduce yourself. How are you qualified? What's your background? Tell us who you are. Jeff Later.
All right. Well, that's still a bit of an intro, so I appreciate that. But yeah, without an official bio that you're reading, I self-described, I guess I've been a fitness coach for about 20 years, and I have a fitness company based out of Utah. We work online with clients from all over the world, and I myself am a retired IFBB pro bodybuilder, and I did that for a long time. I did that for about 12 years. Did 40 competitions, competed nationally 9 times, turned pro, and retired. I work with a lot of people over 40, a lot of men and women over 40, focusing on that crowd because I myself am over 40. And yeah, I believe in sustainability. As extreme as I took things as a bodybuilder, I've kind of learned that is just not the way to run your life. It's so restrictive. Can lead to a lot of body image issues, body dysmorphia, eating disorders, and things like that. And so I focus on sustainability, making long-lasting changes that you can see yourself doing forever. So that's kind of my motto. We focus a lot on muscle and building muscle, and I view that as the path towards long life, longevity, ultimate health, strength, endurance, all the benefits that come with building muscle. So I guess that's my intro. There you go.
We have not talked. In fact, I purposely have not talked to you about this ahead of time because I love when these are organic and these conversations develop organically. And 93% of my clients are females, and most of them are menopausal women in their 50s and 60s. But most of them are married. They've been married a long time. And I named this podcast From a Man's Perspective because I want you to help us understand our husbands and the grandfathers and the uncles and all the men in our lives. So people look at you and they assume that all you train and all you work with, you just work with bodybuilders, because everybody thinks that the people that you only work with people that look like you. Very few of your clients look like you. Very few people in general look like you. And so you really mostly work with what we call lifestyle clients, normal people. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. So is that who you pretty much work with?
Yeah, primarily lifestyle clients. I do still have a few that decide to take a little bit further, and some that come in purposefully to compete as a bodybuilder. But this may surprise a lot of people too, but about 65% historically of the clients that I've trained and coached are female. So I do get a lot of males and females, but my view on that is the reason why is that I think that more women are open to receiving instruction than men are. It's kind of a prideful thing, I think, for men where they think that they just got it, and so they try to do it on their own. And when that doesn't work, then they come and seek out advice. But some do and some don't. But yeah, I'm very comfortable with women. Worked with all sorts of women, especially in those over 40 or over 35.
But we're talking like 7,000 to 8,000 clients. Like you have an extensive track record here.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, and we've worked with a lot of people We have about 7,000 success stories. The way that we've always worked with people has been one-on-one individualized, very personalized plans. We're adapting that a little bit, changing things around slightly, but that's always been our model. And so it's been very, very high touch, very almost like treating everybody almost as if they were preparing for something high level, like a competition, but with lifestyle goals.
And we're gonna get to this at the end of the podcast, but I want you later on. It's you haven't a program that is a one-stop shop, and it really gets people every single thing they need. I mean, it's an investment, but it is getting everybody. It's getting them 100% of the of everything they might need. But we'll touch on that later. So I mean,
Yeah.
you cover all the bases. So what I heard you do a reel. I mean, there's so many things I want to say right now, but I'll start somewhere. I'll just start somewhere and let this just rabbit hole. You said you were talking about testosterone, and you
Yeah.
said, you know, our dad had more testosterone than us, but then his dad had more testosterone than him, and him before him, more and more and more and more as it goes. Why is
Mhm.
testosterone dropping so bad in our men as time goes on?
Yeah, this is very well documented, not always talked about, and not always realized by men today, but it's a very true thing, and it's something that probably over the last 50 years we've seen severe declines in testosterone and other hormones as well, but testosterone among men, with it being such an important aspect of our quality of life, of muscle mass, of longevity, mood, drive, all sorts of things, it really does power us, and or doesn't. And that's what we're seeing today, where a lot of people are very, very deficient there. But the reason why is you can blame it on a lot of things. I think our culture, our lifestyle, we're a lot more sedentary these days. Most jobs are require us to just sit in front of a screen all day. And that the ironic thing is even me as a fitness coach, I'm behind a screen all day. So I'm working with clients online. But and that's the case for most people. Plus, we've just gotten a little bit more sedentary. We're always waiting, 10 extra minutes just so we can get a parking spot that's 15 feet closer to the door. We take the elevator. We have a remote for our TVs. We are doing everything with the most amount of ease and comfort possible. And that has led to our bodies adapting to those scenarios. Not only that, but our food supply, the nutrients in our soil is down. Even if you're getting all organic, non-GMO, the nutrients are simply not there. And then the chemicals that are in our foods and our cleaning products, in our clothes, and everything, the world around us, that you don't can't get away from it. The overuse of antibiotics and drugs and chemicals in our foods, and it's all of this amounts to the adaptation of us having lower testosterone levels, impaired hormones, thyroid output, progesterone, estrogen among women. We're not the same as we used to be, unfortunately.
I was talking to somebody. I'm not going to tell you guys who it is because all of you know who it is. I was talking to somebody about her husband, who I was telling about you and your program that we'll touch on later on. And she said, "I want to get my husband on this." I'm smiling just because I really don't want to tell you. I don't. I won't. I won't slip up. I won't slip up. And I said, this person's name. I said, that's not going to do a hill of beans difference to get him on testosterone if his whole lifestyle is crap. If he's eating
Mm.
crap, if he's drinking too much, if he's not drinking enough water, he's not getting enough sleep, if he's not moving his body. Am I right or am I wrong? I mean, if you get somebody on replacement on TRT on some sort of a plan, is that going to even move the needle if they're not nailing the basics? I mean, could I be wrong about I think I'm probably a little bit wrong about that, or maybe I'm so biased towards lifestyle that could giving somebody a boost of testosterone help them in other areas even if their diet is still crap?
Yeah, well, I think that I think that for a lot of people, if they just try to find something that they can take, then it's almost viewed as like, well, that's going to fix my problems. That's going to fix my lack of energy, maybe low drive, and that's going to that's going to take care of it. But for the most part, it's actually not. It's there to enhance the current activity that you are doing or not doing. So you always need the basics. The basics are never going to go away. The basics of living a healthy lifestyle, eating the proper foods that are going to fuel you and give you the proper nutrients, and then staying active. Just not sitting on our butts all day, which is what most of us do. We have to consciously move. We have to make that decision, that daily choice to be a little bit more active and to eat foods that serve us. And then if you have the proper hormones to back that up, then you're going to see a better response. But if all you do take is a hormone replacement therapy, that can help a little bit. It's not like you won't experience anything because it's very powerful hormone in the body, but it's not going to solve many problems if that's all you do, unfortunately.
What kind of percentage are we talking about? You said in your reel that most men over 35 are low in T.
I would say it's like 95%, if not 100%.
What? Really? Oh
Yeah,
my
I've met men in their 20s that have testosterone levels of a 75-year-old man. Like that's where on average is what it would be. And the other problem too that you see when you look at blood work is the range, the wide range that is considered to be normal. And so you run into problems too when you go to your general practitioner, your family doctor, you're like, I think I have low testosterone. And they run it and they're like, well, it's on the low side of normal, but you're within the range. But it's just that the acceptable ranges and where they establish these ranges are based on the people that they're testing, and the most people that are testing are low. And then you also have to realize that the broad range can go from like a total testosterone level of 250 to 1250. That's huge. And if you fall anywhere within there, you're considered to be normal. Well, I can tell you most men are under 400. In fact, I would say most men are under 350. So you're right there in that bottom like 100 units of what's considered to be acceptable. And if you're symptomatic, which most men are, but don't always realize it, um, it's not going, you're definitely not optimizing your health. You're not feeling your best. And sometimes you don't know the difference until you actually do get on hormone replacement therapy. And then you experience life as it's supposed to be. Like, oh, I can wake up with energy. Oh, I don't feel wrecked after a workout for a week. I can recover a little bit better. I can build muscle. I can lose fat. And you didn't realize that there were internal things that were holding you back, and really having a dramatic impact on your life until you experience what it's supposed to be like. Then you have something to compare it to.
You and I were talking about earlier the tremendous pressure on men in long gone are the days of the man being the sole provider of a household. I just don't see it very often. I mean, even my ladies are selling some Mary Kay or something like they're selling some Scentsy, like I mean, usually the women are working outside the home. So the trad wife is just not what we're seeing. So talk to us a little
Mm.
bit about, because I know you lead a men's group and you really encourage these guys to open up because men don't. Maybe you should talk a little bit about that. Why? I guess let's first start off and say, why don't men open up and talk about what's about their feelings? I guess, is that the right way to say that?
Yeah, they don't know how. We're also taught, I think, just in the traditional culture, is that you're really not supposed to whine and complain. And it's not necessarily that, but I think we tend to be made to think that it is. Acknowledging our feelings and emotions that are inside. We tend to just bottle them up, shove them deep down below, and those start to emerge in our 40s, I believe, for a lot of men, where we start to reevaluate our life. And I think for a lot of men, they feel the pressures of that responsibility to provide. They feel that the pressure of the responsibility to protect, and they don't really do much for themselves. I mean, some do. But for the most part, most men do not place themselves first. They don't take care of themselves. They take care of everybody else first, and then at the end, there's really nothing left for them. And so this can start to build and build and build. And 100% of the conversations that I've had with men over 40 are all very, very, very consistent. They're all talking about the same things, the same stressors, the same disappointments that they're experiencing, stress, anxiety, and depression in some cases. And that's why we're seeing rising suicide rates amongst men in their 40s and 50s. It's the highest category, highest age range we're seeing suicide. And I think it's just because it's not being addressed. And so, yeah, I created a men's group to to provide a container where men can talk about these things. And it's not this like always heavy and deep conversations, but it's just being able to talk and realizing that you're not alone, that you're not the only one that feels this way, that we all feel this way. And when we're able to talk about it and voice and work through these things, there's a sense of relief that can come from that. And that's what we've been able to experience. And it's become a passion project of mine and something that I do with quite a few men.
But why are we seeing depression so high in men? What's going on? Why?
I think it just comes down to that the pressure that we feel, the responsibility, but then also and this might go a little bit controversial, but I think in a lot of ways feminism has gone too far,
Oh, totally.
and it has taken away some of the masculine traits that men traditionally have always had, and that has made them feel like less of a man.
Mhm.
And because of that, they, that role of the man and husband and wife in the marriage, in the home, just in life, it's been diminished severely. And we're all feeling that. It's like it's hard to know, like, well, is this, can I even stand up for myself? Or can we even show any sort of masculinity? I believe we definitely should. We can. Some people are going to choose to be offended, but we can't control other people's feelings. Not everybody is going to share our same ideals, and that's totally fine. But I think everyone's become so scared of offending other people and hurting other people's feelings that nobody knows what to do. And it leaves a lot of people feeling lost and alone.
Mm. What what are we doing to our husbands and our fathers and our uncles? What are we doing as women to men that are making things worse? What we're just not letting them lead. What are we doing to them?
Well, I don't know that we necessarily need to place blame on the women. I think this is something that we all need to take responsibility for and take ownership of our lives. But we also need to, and in that, so like in the dynamic of a relationship, I think we need to make sure that we are expressing the things that we do need. And it's okay to ask, like, hey, this is what I need from you. What do you need from me? And having that open line of communication that is often not there. Communication is the second leading cause of divorce, the first leading cause being infidelity, but that communication element is much better among women, usually pretty terrible amongst men because we can't express ourselves. We don't feel safe to express ourselves. And that needs to change, because if we're not able to tell our partner what we need, or if we're struggling, then we're going to be suffering in silence, as is commonly said amongst men. We keep it to ourselves. We bottle it up. We have this repeated loop that we go through in our minds that gets worse and worse and worse, and it's like this death spiral that we go through in our head, and it's backed up by the way we're treated in society and sometimes in marriages, yes, but I think ultimately the men need to take the lead there to talk with their wives and express what they need, and then women need to be able to receive that feedback, to work with their husbands to establish that open line of communication.
It is an election year. We're recording this in September of 2024, and we are coming into the biggest election of our lifetime. And I think that most of my viewers, or most of my listeners, are going to agree things need to change. And we've seen a big rise in men, either in both in Gen X and Gen Z, and millennials, really all of, not Gen Z, millennials and Gen X, rising up and becoming a lot more conservative and taking the lead and looking for more of that traditional relationship. So I'm not surprised. I'm happy to see that we're turning that ship, and getting things turned back around to, it's so off. We just have this,
Yeah.
we have a lot of women like me who are just ball buster boss ladies that we run these big companies, and I have a high drive, working dog that's a police dog, and I train this dog, and it's all these very masculine. And I guess we just have these ladies that step up, and we just don't have the men that are able to step up and match this energy and dominate. So I'm glad to see that there is a rise. Are you noticing a rise in the younger generation coming up and taking the lead, or maybe not as much as you would hope?
Well, I still think there's a lot of room for improvement, but I do see a pushback against what has been the narrative over the last maybe 10, 15 years, and even more concentrated in the last five, where men don't know how to be men. Men are choosing to try and be women. Whatever it is that is happened, masculinity I believe, is at the source of that for a lot of men, where they felt like they can't be a man, and a lot of them, and oftentimes take that feminine role. Not that they're trying to be feminine traditionally, but it's just the energy that they have amongst with their partner. They they aren't filling that role, but does seem to be a pushback, and I'm happy about that. And if there's anything I can do to contribute to that, I'm going to. And that's why I'm talking about this more and more. It's why I've created the support group for men. And I'm no mental health expert. I'm a fitness expert, but I do understand people, and I know what it's like to be a man and in a relationship that doesn't quite work for you, and um, hopefully provide some guidance and at least a safe space for men to talk about this and make a change. And if not if in their own life at a minimum, but for those around them and for their children, to serve as a proper example for them. And hopefully that continues to get better and better and better. But we'll see. Time will tell.
So, because this is called From a Man's Perspective, we're gonna get some. And we talk about this a lot in Code Red. We always, we have our average starting weight is 219, 221, 222. So we've got some people who have some pretty severe weight problems that come to Code Red as a last alternative before weight loss surgery, and a lot of them stop having intimacy with their husbands because they are so gosh darn embarrassed, and they are so ashamed. You know, from a man's perspective, I don't know. I don't know if this is too hard of a question, or when you're going to stumble over or whatever, but I guess what's going on? Why are we so freaked out? I mean, of what we look like when we've been married to this guy for 30 years, and now all of a sudden, haven't had intimacy for 6 months, and we're worried because we've gotten overweight, or we don't like the way we look, or we have cellulite or stretch marks or scars or bruises or something. What is going on in these marriages? Why can't these women just go? Good luck with that question, Jeff. What's going on
Well,
in a man's head? Why are we do we should we be as freaked out as we are?
probably not. One of the things that this is actually something I do talk about from time to time, because when you look at a relationship, a healthy relationship, the physical chemistry and physical intimacy is a key part of that. And when that goes away, it can really damage the relationship. But one of the reasons it does go away is because we don't feel confident ourselves. So I think a very shallow way of looking at this from a lot of people's outside perspective would be like, well, you're trying to look better for the opposite sex. Well, how about you try to look better for yourself so that you feel confident in the nude with your husband, being intimate with your wife, whatever it may be, and that will drastically improve intimacy amongst partners, and just having that confidence, right? Being confident in your own skin, and not being embarrassed about how you look, or feeling self-conscious about how you look with your partner. And so that's why, when it comes to getting in shape and how does it impact your intimacy? Well, it's not a matter of your partner being attracted to you, because they probably love you anyway. But if you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, and you're self-conscious, and you're hiding, and you want the lights off, and whatever it may be, um, that's going to drastically hurt your intimacy and overall your relationship.
It just boils down to confidence then.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, a lot. I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt, if you become more attracted, if you happen to like somebody's, if they're a little bit skinnier or a little more curvy, whatever appeals to your partner. But ultimately, there's an emotional connection, or you probably shouldn't be married. And ultimately, the confidence that you have about yourself is probably going to play a much bigger role.
I lived in New York City from 2005 to 2009, and I took a pole dancing class. It was so much fun, but they brought in these girls, and they were girls that were like advanced level students, could have been instructors. And a couple of them were a little on the larger side, and they were so sexy. They oozed sex appeal. It was so much. You didn't even notice their bodies. You were just like,
Mhm.
like and I'm not even into girls. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, it was so amazing. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, these girls that just walk in the room, they own the room. It doesn't matter what they look
Mhm.
like. They have this incredible confidence. And that's probably kind of what you're referring to.
Yeah, that's what's sexy. Owning your own sexuality and being confident and not being so worried about what the other person is thinking. If that's what you're that concern that you have is, I hate to say it, it's a turnoff for your partner. And then obviously it's going to impact how you respond, how you act. But if you walk into the room with confidence, which you're going to feel more confident, the better you feel about yourself. But that confidence is one of the sexiest things. I would say women probably think that as well. But obviously I'm not a woman, but from a man's perspective, as is the title of the podcast,
Yeah.
yeah, that confidence that says it speaks volumes.
Yeah. We had a Code Red Rebel years ago named Cassie, and she lost 75 pounds in 4 months. And her husband said he noticed she was losing weight. She didn't tell him what she was doing because, he lost and gained weight before, and she didn't want to tell him another diet. And of course, he tries the proper human diet, Code Red, and it works. So he said that he noticed something different about her, but it wasn't her weight loss. It was her increased confidence. It was the fact that she was smiling, she was
Mm.
laughing, that she was more at ease, she was more comfortable with herself. That's what made him stop and go, "What's going on with you?" It wasn't the clothes getting baggy. It wasn't the face getting, it was her, her whole persona changed as she was losing weight.
Yeah, you have a glow about you. That's the biggest thing. I think when you see somebody, and it's that confidence too, and then that sense of pride. That maybe if you haven't had it for a long time, and then you now start to exude that confidence and that pride, people are going to take note. It changes how people respond to you, how they react to you. It's unspoken, but it's almost palpable. You can feel that energy coming off somebody when they feel that way about themselves.
We call them non-scale victories in Code Red. So what kind of non-scale victories have you noticed and you've seen in your community throughout the years as these people take their lives back, take control, and start to get their health in order and start to get their mind right and their whole life levels up? What kind of things have you noticed? We always say that the scale is like number 5 on the list. What have you noticed these guys and gals talking about changing as they get healthy?
Well, I think a big one is increased confidence, but it goes much further than that, because if you look at confidence, well, how does that impact your life? What does that impact? Well, it can impact your relationship, as we've already mentioned, but it can impact your interaction with any other human being, and that can change your career, your finances. That could lead to better sales if you're a salesperson and you have this confident persona that you're presenting to other people. They're more likely to buy from you if you're acting confident and you're performing better because you have better concentration, better productivity, more focus, because the mind and body are one. That's going to result in better performance at work, which could result in promotion, could help with you advancing in your business if you own a business, and that impacts your bottom line, impacts your bank account. I always say the body and the bank account are tied together. And so I think it does. There's not one thing that it doesn't touch in your life. It's hard to make that correlation when you're stuck in that overweight state. But when you experience what it can be like on the other side, it becomes addictive. And there are some people that take it much further, and they really want to try and get very, very lean. And then that's when I think you have it all. When you have the wealth, you have the great relationship, you have your health in order, that's that's the person that has it all. And I work with a lot of men that have an aspiration to achieve that, and they do oftentimes. And that's the one thing where they're not congruent in their lives, where maybe they've had success financially, they've had a great business that they've built, and they have a great family, but their health is not always in order. And they oftentimes don't make that correlation. They will think that, well, I have to sacrifice my health. I have to, not eat well. I have to cope with the stress with alcohol or with drugs, to deal with all these things that I'm doing to build my business, to build my empire, to make time for my kids. And they sacrifice time for themselves. And you go and look at like the whole analogy, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. If you're not taking care of yourself, your ability to take care of other people is impaired, and your ability to advance your career, to make more money, to have a greater impact on the world is severely diminished. You have to take care of yourself first. And people don't do that. They don't see that until they till they do. And oftentimes it's much later in life, and they're like, what was I doing before? You couldn't quite see it. You were focused so much on what was right in front of you that you couldn't see how big of an impact this could have had on your entire life. So don't wait any longer. Do it now and experience the full experience of life. Being able to play with your kids with full energy without having to worry about your back or your knees because you're tired and you're sore. You can play with your grandkids with full energy, and they maybe even more than their parents, because you are healthy. And that's what people don't often see. But I try to paint that picture as much as I can, and I try to serve as an example to others.
I did a podcast here a few weeks ago called You Are a Walking Billboard that really pissed a lot of people off because I said that people don't respect obese people because they're a drain on society. This is just evolutionarily, guys. Like evolutionary, this is what we're thinking when we look at somebody that dates back to earlier man. So they're a drain on society. They use up too much resources. They can't take care of their kids, and they cannot contribute to the tribe. So am I wrong? Do people not respect? I know you're going to be a lot more careful than me on this, but people don't respect obese people when they see somebody. People judge you long before you open your mouth.
Everyone is constantly judging other people, and the first thing you see, I mean, with your eyes, is whatever they look like, right? So you're observing what they're wearing, what their body shape is. The comparison that I often use is, if you took two equally qualified people that were interviewing for a job, same experience, same education, same personality, one was overweight, one was in shape. Who would you choose? Probably the person that's in shape. Sorry, probably the person that's in shape, because it says something about them, right? Like a comment that I often get, I get all sorts of different comments when I go out in public, and one that I often will receive is like, "Man, that's a lot of work, and I don't have that kind of discipline." So what they're saying to me is that they recognize and they acknowledge that I do have discipline, that I am a hard worker, because I've been able to do that with myself. But I'm not a one, that's not my sole path in life, my sole purpose in life. It's just one part of me. I don't call myself a bodybuilder. I used to compete in bodybuilding events a long time ago. Don't do that anymore, but it doesn't matter. I still live the lifestyle. I've built a business. I have great relationships with a lot of people, and that's a well-rounded individual. But I get that respect almost automatically from people because of how I carry myself, because of how my body looks on the exterior. But there is more to me. There's an inside part of me as well. And but yeah, you are constantly judged, and you judge other people. There's no getting around that. People just don't like to talk about it.
Hmm. Nobody wants to say the quiet thing.
No,
They don't want to
doesn't
get
mean it's not
canceled.
true.
They don't want to say it. So, so tell us a little bit about this program. I want to make sure people can utilize this program that you offer. I keep referring to it as a one-stop shop. Am I right? It's a one-stop shop. One-stop shop.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So we've partnered with a physician that serves the entire United States. And it's a great concierge hormone physician, but it's also comprehensive. So what we often have found over the past 20 years that I've been doing this is, if we do suspect that there's a hormonal deficiency, which is pretty easy to spot as long as I've been doing it, I can always tell just by symptomology where they're at. Like, okay, I believe we have a testosterone issue. I believe we have a thyroid issue. I believe there's something out of whack. Let's look at blood work. And oftentimes they'll go to their doctor, get some blood work, and the doctor won't want to treat it, or they doesn't know how, or they're very resistant, or oftentimes they don't even want to look at certain types of labs for some unknown reason to me. I know there's some insurance pushback sometimes, but I don't know why more information wouldn't be helpful for a doctor. But they don't even want to, it's like they're going to diagnose the problem with your car without opening up the hood. That's kind of what the doctor's approach is sometimes. So instead, we're taking matters into our own hands, and we're building it into our comprehensive package where, yes, we are providing instruction and guidance on nutrition, on exercise, on supplementation, but we're also making sure that internally things are optimized and in good working order, that your health is 100% on track and the way it needs to be.
Is there a certain length of time that this package is for? Like 6 months?
We advise 1 year. If you take 1 year out of your life to right the ship, correct some behaviors, fix what's ever going on internally, and oftentimes with hormones, especially with women, it's not an easy fix. With low testosterone amongst men, that usually can be corrected with hormone replacement therapy if that's the right route for them. For women, however, if there is a thyroid issue, oftentimes there's a progesterone and estrogen and testosterone issue as well. It can sometimes be this big house of cards, and one hormone affects the other because your entire endocrine system is connected, and that ends up being a little bit more where you really discover what a practice means with a doctor, because they have to try one hormone, test, see if it's working, make some adjustments, wait another 6 to 8 weeks, test again, make some more adjustments. So it's giving yourself a year to right the ship, get the habits established and your lifestyle in place. That usually isn't enough time for most people, but you have to, I mean, if you're not willing to put a year into righting the ship, then I don't know what you're doing. You're not going to correct it in 90 days. There's usually a lot more work involved, especially if you're in your 40s and you lived a lifetime of bad habits, bad lifestyle, and you expect to correct that in 90 days. That's unrealistic.
Yeah, I get people that are like, yo, my hormones are messed up. My hormones, but you're drinking a bottle of wine a night, Karen, and you're doing caramel macchiatos and cake pops every morning from Starbucks. You can't,
Mm.
you can't pellet your way out of the Arby's drive-through. Like you gotta nail the basics before all this other extra stuff is gonna work. So it is truly a one-stop shop. How can people find that program if they want to work with you?
The easiest way is to contact me on Instagram. Jeff Later, JEFFLATER, altogether is my handle. And that's the best way to find me. You can also go to musclemasterymethod.com. That's our website where you can go in and find more information about our programming, more information about me, access my socials, contact forms, everything's all there.
Um, Tell us, I know you kind of touched on this, but I know people are I know the wheels are turning and they're like, well, maybe that's me. I wonder if that's my husband. I wonder if I should think, they're thinking, so what kind of symptoms does someone need to have in order to know if they're maybe a good candidate for this program or to work with you or to look into this further? What kind of things would they be feeling or going through?
Well, there's a couple different things I could touch on there. For one, if you suspect that your husband might be feeling this way, the way that a man feels, as I mentioned, when they're in their 40s, they are. Just take that as a given because they are. I can guarantee it. From a symptomology standpoint, health perspective, if you suspect that you might have low hormones or some deficient hormones, you first have to look at what your lifestyle behaviors are, because one thing could be like, well, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm following a diet, I'm exercising, but nothing's happening. If that is truly the case, like you're not having caramel macchiatos and you're not, falling asleep with a pint of Ben and Jerry's on your chest, then yeah, it might be worth looking at your hormones. The symptoms might be there, but when you look at traditional hormones and the symptoms that would indicate that there's a deficiency, poor circulation. Your hands could be cold. You could have a runny nose a lot. This would be like a low thyroid output. Energy is really low. You notice a significant difference. In severe cases, hair can start falling out. With men, it can affect your libido. It can affect your ability to retain muscle, to build muscle, your overall energy, your drive, motivation, focus. Um, all of that can be impaired. If you start to notice, like, I think we all often relate old men to being kind of in a bad mood. Well, there's a reason for that. Their hormones decline after the age of 30. Hormones start to decline after the age of 30. If you are not actively weight training, you lose muscle every year. That's a very well-known, well-documented thing. And so, even if you are putting in the work, but you're not seeing the outcomes that you would expect, then there's probably something that you need to address internally. The thing is, I can almost guarantee that everyone's deficient in something, but that's because lifestyles are not healthy. So the first thing you should do is correct your lifestyle, fix your dieting habits, fix your sedentary lifestyle, and if at that point you're not experiencing the change that you want, and you truly are being honest with yourself, and you're following a nutritious diet, and you're putting yourself in a deficit, then yeah, look at your hormones and you can address it from that point.
How do these ladies talk to their husbands about something like that? Is there a way we need to say it to them?
That could be a difficult conversation. It's almost like a husband telling his wife, like, "Oh, you should get on a diet. You need to lose some weight." I mean, that's a terrible conversation. It's probably not going to end well. But I talk about these things all the time. You can refer them to my page. Oh, I've heard this guy on Christy's podcast. Had some interesting things to say. I think you might like it. Let me tell them. If it resonates with them, then great. The one thing I have discovered in all these years of working with couples and working with men and women is that if they don't want it themselves, they will never do it. You can't force your partner to do this. You can't have that desire for them, because ultimately, when you're not looking in the dark, they're going to sneak food. They're going to pretend like they're going to the gym and go bowling or go somewhere else. That happens. So they truly have to want it. They have to have a desire for themselves. And sometimes you have to be that example for them. Because if you're taking care of your stuff, if you're making changes and they see the change that you go through, then they're probably going to want to match that. Not always, but that's one of the most powerful things you can do, is serve as an example for them.
So preach at all times if necessary, use words.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you something, and I know that you were raised in a religious home and you understand the Bible. The Bible is very clear about the Proverbs 31 woman. We know who she is. We know what we're supposed to be like. We get it. I mean, it's very clear. Men, are they what does the Bible say about the men and how they're supposed to lead the household? And we see a lot of biblical men out there. I know it's
Well,
putting
not
you
as
on the
much.
spot with that, putting you on the spot with the Bible.
Well, you're never gonna hear me quote a Bible verse, because I'm not that educated on the subject. I mean, I am a Christian, and I do follow, a lot of the beliefs. However, I think that still comes back to the traditional values and roles that you find amongst men and women, among husband and wife, where we are meant to provide, to protect, to lead the home, and the environment, and to serve as, not that the woman necessarily needs to be this subservient person, because that's not what I believe either. There has to be mutual respect. But I think what a man wants more than anything, almost more than love from their partner, is respect. They want to be respected. And I think that is what has been one of the consequences of this, of feminist movements, where men are no longer being respected. In fact, the quite the opposite. And men are being accused of being toxic males, and there's toxic masculinity. And you can classify that and define that in a very broad way for some people. But ultimately, men just don't know how to be men anymore, because they're afraid to, because of the strong feminist movement. And I respect women. I love women. I have nothing against them by any means. But I also need to make sure that we're not doing this at the cost of men's mental health, and to the point where we're committing suicide and ending our lives. That's just not healthy for anybody.
Hmm. That's a great answer. Once again, tell us how we can support you and tell the audience how they can find you. Is it just your Instagram handle? Is that the best? That's the best. That's your most active platform?
Yeah, I spend most of my time there, when I'm not, actively working on clients' plans, or interacting with my clients. But um, I think that I hope that this has provided some perspective. I think that uh, it's not always recognized. It's being talked about a little bit more than it was, which I'm happy to see. And I'm going to continue to talk about it more and more and more, because I think there is this silent epidemic amongst men. Um, and that's what I've focused on, because I am a man and I understand men more than I understand women. That's always going to be the case. Um, Not to take anything away from women, but because they have their own needs and their demands, and I think as men, we sometimes put their needs above our own, which is okay in some cases. But if that's all we ever do, we don't ever take care of ourselves, it's not going to end well for either side. So I think we just need to take a little bit more time for ourselves. It's okay to do some self-care, which is often labeled as being selfish. And it's not. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. We always have to be our own first priority. We always have to put our oxygen mask on ourselves first. And then we can be a better father, a better husband, a better provider, a better protector. But we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves.
I know my dad was a cop back in the 70s and 80s, and he got into some pretty crappy things and shootouts and drowning
Sure.
kids and just terrible things that happen when you're a cop. And I know he still battles with PTSD. My mom would say how he would have nightmares and he would fight in his sleep. And the guy's got 2 master's degrees. It's like he's so smart, and he's a counselor. And I know he still has some battled some demons over the years. And I remember him specifically saying, we just didn't talk about it as cops in the locker room. We didn't talk about the drug addict frying his baby in the microwave. We just didn't talk about the things that we saw, and it just was pent up for decades. So I know that that's what is eating away at so many of these men and causing these suicides. And it's not good, and it needs to change. So we thank you for your contribution to this grassroots movement to try to pull these guys out of this state that they're in.
Yeah, that we have no outlet. And again, I think we often feel shame for feeling like the way that we do. But if I can at least make it more well known, more aware that, hey, it's okay to feel that way, and you definitely should do something about it. You can't just bottle it up. That is very, very unhealthy.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Rebel Weight Loss and Lifestyle. Hit Jeff up on Instagram. Give him a follow. He doesn't post very often. I give him a hard time about it. He doesn't post nearly as often. Ain't nobody posting as much as me. I'm not saying that's what he's got to do. I'm just saying your content's good, and you guys will really enjoy that. So thank you, Jeff, for being my guest. And this is definitely a different podcast that, ladies, I hope you enjoyed this. And guys, we will see you guys on the next one. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Rebel Weight Loss and Lifestyle. If you are looking for some hardcore accountability to get and keep this weight off, look no further, because I've got VIP Connection. This is the ultimate connection to me, just short of me sleeping on your couch. You're going to get 3 daily messages from me in real time directly to you. You're going to submit your weight every Friday. We're going to go over it in a weekly meeting on Sunday nights, and I'm going to give you feedback. You'll have access to a monthly VIP breakfast with me in Boise, a monthly VIP supplement box, access to any workshop, any PDF promo that I hold for that month. You'll have access to the Ringside membership. And best of all, you'll have a fully customized nutrition program written just for you. We're talking about over $3,000 total value for $397 a month, and you can cancel anytime. Go to coderedlifestyle.com/VIP to check that out.